I think part of it is a very simple one, is in calculating work hours, right? So in the past, I did a lot of endurance sports, or as in long distance running. And yeah, you need to kind of pace yourself, and you need to know that, yeah, if you're done with your 10K, then you're done with your 10K. So then just take a break and then go again, but don't run another 10K after your first 10K, because then you're running 20Ks, right? So the point is, yeah, you can do that once or twice, but that cannot be a sustainable system. So part of it is just simply, counting hours, counting work days. Yeah.
Hi, Will.
Yes, hi, and nice to meet you. Thanks for taking your time.
Yeah, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, a lot of things going on, and I mean, life is challenging, not more challenging than usual, but just a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I've heard that with a lot of the leaders I coach as well. There's a lot of challenges happening. So for today's session, Will, what would you like to focus on?
Yeah, I like to discuss some things around burnout, because it is something that I kind of see with people in my team, and also with other people in other parts of our organization. And I kind of sense it myself too. I think this whole burnout thing, I need to get better at this, better recognizing it with others, better dealing it with others, better dealing it with myself. Burnout.
Yeah, so I'm hearing the main theme of burnout, and just really focusing on how it's affecting you, and that's how it's affecting other people in the organization as well. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of our session, what would success look like to you, Will?
Yeah, so I need to understand a better way to kind of label what is burnout and what is not burnout, right? So it's a little bit like air pollution, right? So I mean, when do you know the air is polluted or not? Because we kind of like a frog in a hot water pot being boiled in a way. And so that recognition piece, and some ideas around how to help people with that, for them as well as for me, because I think burnout is at two ends in a way, right? Because if you're if I'm working with people who are feeling burned out, that affects me, and if they work with me being burned out, that affects them. So it's on both ends.
So I'm hearing that it's about recognizing when is it really burnout, when is it not burnout, and also coming up with next steps on how to help yourself and the people around you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's go to the first part of what you said. You said you wanted to kind of define what burnout is and what burnout isn't. Yeah. But let's start with that. What do you think burnout is, and what do you think burnout isn't? As you look at maybe the months that have passed, and you look at the times that you felt burnout and the times that maybe it wasn't burnout, what would your definition be of that?
Yeah. So it's kind of feeling running on empty, right? As in, you feel low on energy, right? And maybe you feel that you are kind of pushing forward and kind of spinning wheels in a way, right? So you're putting a lot of energy, but you're not making progress. Yeah. So spinning wheels, I think that would be part of that. And just feeling that you don't have the clarity of foresight in terms of, think things through, be receptive of kind of what's on the horizon, and think, hey, that's something we need to be aware of. So a clarity of foresight and thought. Some things like being sensitive around your own emotions and other people's emotions. Yeah. So being, let's call it insensitive is maybe not the right word, but maybe kind of numbish. Yeah. So I don't really know. I have a good articulation of a great definition around this. Is there something that you can add to that?
Well, first I wanted to affirm what you're hearing. So I'm hearing that burnout for you is like running on empty. It's when you don't have clarity, and it all could also be affecting the people around you. right? So it's about also how you make decisions or your relationships with others. It's affecting that. Yeah, very interesting about running an empty. So tell me what it feels like to run an empty.
It's like if you're driving your car and you're low on fuel, right? Then you're kind of nervous in terms of, oh my goodness, I need to go and fuel up somewhere, but there is no fuel station, and you kind of basically get kind of tense and nervous in terms of, am I making it to the next fuel station? Yeah. Now nowadays it's easy because you can put it in the GPS, but back in the day that might not have been the case. And in some countries where I've been driving, sometimes for like 50 kilometers or 75 kilometers, there's just no fuel station right inside, on highways.
Yeah. So I'm hearing it like it's like barely making it from station to station because you're running on an empty tank.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot. That's pretty heavy. What about times when you don't feel burnout? What's the feeling like? Like days when you don't feel that empty tank feeling. What's that like for you?
Yeah, so then you really feel like you're top of the world, and you're super energetic, and you kind of as they say in some of the banks, you can bite the ass of the bull every day, right? So you can really kind of, there's no challenge that really is too much.
Like you're unstoppable. You can do anything.
Yeah. You kind of like, you can't wait to go to the office, and you can't, you're sad when you go home, type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that engagement in the office. You like to go to the office. You like to work. It's easy for you to handle challenges, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that a day? That's how you describe a day without that you're not feeling that burnout.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. So now you see the two definitions of burnout for you. Does that make it clear for you? Because you wanted more clarity on when is it burnout, when is it not burnout?
Yeah, I think that makes it more clear. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Is there anything you think you need to add to that as you hear your own definition of burnout that you think that's missing, or you think that's already a complete definition of what burnout is and what burnout isn't?
Yeah, I think the emotional component is a little bit missing in our discussion yet, right? So it's like, I think I talked about energy and task in a way, right? How you kind of, but not necessarily the emotional piece of that, right? So
yeah, so say more about the emotional piece. What's that emotional piece that's missing in this burnout definition?
yeah, so when I start with the flip side, when it's not burnout, right? Then emotionally you're kind of high, there's a lot of kind of happiness and laughter and joy and feeling victorious, right? You feel almost endorphin type of excitement of things that are happening, right? So the sun is shining in your life, right? So that feeling. And then, since you're going to ask this anyhow, what's on the flip side of that? Yeah, it's a little like a cloudy, foggy day, right? You feel like, you feel the air is heavy, right? You feel like, you feel irritated more quickly, right? That you feel like small things become big things, and I can feel that your wire is thin, right? You get more easily upset about things. That doesn't mean that you show the upsetness, but you still feel the upsetness. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are two different emotions. So the other one where you feel joy, excitement, and the other one where there's a lot of fog coming in. Yeah. If you're going to name the main emotion of burnout, what would that be? If the other one was on joy, what would burnout be?
So it's like feeling overburdened, maybe, right? Feeling heavy, feeling weight. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Overburdened. And sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Yeah. Feeling weight on your shoulder.
Weight on your shoulders. Wow. Yeah. And so now that you hear that definition, what do you think is one step that you can take to get more clarity, to lift the fog when you're feeling burnt out? What is something that you could do?
So could do in terms of what? What do you?
Could be like, what do you think you could be doing differently? And if you look at how you've been operating in the last few months and the times that you felt burnout, and if you look at those situations, what are the things that you could have been maybe doing differently that that could stop that burnout?
Yeah. So one thing that I've been doing quite regularly in the past, and I also recommend people do that, is kind of disengage. You have to, part of it, if you feel that it's coming, right? It's like if you feel that the bad weather is coming, then you don't have to wait until you're wet. You have to kind of take the umbrella before the rain is falling, right? So part of it is kind of sense better when it's coming. And then secondly, disengage. So, and disengage mean take a short break, right? So I many times jokingly told people maybe I should pick up smoking because that's an easy way to take a smoking break, right? But it's that equivalent, right? Kind of step out of the groove and do something, right? So, so for me, that many times means like, just go out for a little walk. Our office is near a big park, so you can basically kind of go out of the office, go around the park, come back in. Yeah, that kind of.
I think those are great ideas, but I just want to challenge that a little bit and ask you, is that really 100% working for you, or is there something in that solution that you've tried that that you could maybe tweak to make it become better, to get you the outcomes that you want, and the outcome that you said that you want is not to feel burnout?
Yeah, so that's why I think we're having this discussion. I want to talk about it because it's part of the solution, I feel, right? Because it is basically, if you're standing in front of an oven or a hot fire and you feel like, I'm hot, so I need to kind of go out and cool down and come back in. But then when you come back in, you're in front of the same oven again, right? So it's not a sustainable solution, right?
It's not a sustainable solution. Yeah. So it's good that you recognize that. You mentioned something earlier about catching yourself before the burnout. And I wanted to ask you about that. So are there ways where you could catch yourself better before the burnout happens?
Well, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I think part of it is a very simple one, is in calculating work hours, right? So in the past, I did a lot of endurance sports, or as in long distance running. And you need to kind of pace yourself, and you need to know that, if you're done with your 10K, then you're done with your 10K. So then just take a break and then go again, but don't run another 10K after your first 10K, because then you're running 20Ks, right? So the point is, you can do that once or twice, but that cannot be a sustainable system. So, part of it is just simply, counting hours, counting work days. Yeah.
And so how do you know when you're done, right? So like, let's say because you're saying you're comparing it to when you're running a long distance marathon, and there's something that kind of lets you know that, okay, it's time to stop, time to rest, and then maybe run again later on. So what are some indicators that's going to help you just know when it's time to stop and take a break?
So, some of the things that I used in the past, maybe I have to kind of redo in my schedule, is basically kind of schedule breaks, right? So I love to plan things, not because I'm a good planner, but because I just need to love to plan things, because that makes life a lot easier. So part of it, plan some of these breaks, right? So for instance, during lunchtime, I plan lunch outside the office so that you already have that breather. Make sure that you really take that hour lunchtime. Take a tea break, right? So make sure that you in mid-afternoon you have a break.
So planning kind of for your breaks is what you're saying.
Yeah, literally in the agenda, just put it in. Yeah.
In your schedule.
In the schedule, yes. Sorry.
Okay, good. Anything else you think that you need to add aside from planning for your breaks and putting it intentionally in your schedule? Are there other things that you need to be doing more of or less of to manage this burnout?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there is, and I love the work that David Allen has been doing around getting things done. I think part of that burnout also has to do with clarity, as I earlier mentioned. And I do know that I feel that if I sit down and plan my stuff, and then you have kind of clarity over the next couple of weeks on, what's on the docket, what needs to be done, and do that with other people as well, that actually kind of lifts a lot of the kind of heaviness in a way, because it's almost like the fog is gone, because you think, hey, no, we got this, right? It's planned, people are in agreement on this, and we kind of planned it in a way that it's enough and not too much. So we have enough to chew on, but not too much to choke on.
Yeah, sounds good. And so when we think about that plan, how can you plan better? Because I know, Will, that you do a lot of planning already, but how do you change the way you're planning for things? Because you said that this is really going to help you with clarity. So what's something that you can do differently after our session together to just get that clarity and that planning?
Yeah, as part of my personality, I tend to maybe take on too much and not have the clarity on priorities. So planning is one thing, but I think I need to be more clear in telling me / the people I work with, okay, this is a priority, and therefore the other things are not a priority. So these are the big chunks, and the other one is then basically add-on bonus. Yeah. So that is one thing. And I think part of it is also, come to talk about it, is setting quality standards. So be very clear to myself and to people, okay, this is the outcome that we're trying to create, right? So this is the finish line. If it's up to that standard, then it's good. And, is that standard clear to me and clear to the people I work with? Because I also sense that part of that burnout is that one might feel, so maybe me or the people in my team may feel like, yeah, okay, it's not good enough, we have to do it better, right? So, and then sometimes it's because quality standards have not been properly articulated up front, right? What success really means. And that's redo cycle that people feel it's not done, again it's not done, and again it's not done, that could feel tiring to people. And I think, anyway, we know that tiring is part of that burnout.
So defining what quality means.
Yeah. Upfront.
Before you do anything upfront. Okay. Yeah. All right. And so I was wondering, how would you define that? How would you make that clear on what quality means for you and for others?
Yeah, I think that's the SMART goal concept, so to say, right? You can basically use that framework to articulate what success looks like. So that's not so much of an issue.
Yeah, good. So using the SMART goal to give that clarity. So I was also wondering about the prioritization, because you know that after this call, life will probably get in the way, and they're just going to be doing so many things. So how do you now put that prioritization in place? So how do you know which ones to prioritize?
Yeah, so that is not so much of an issue, because in my planning system, that's just color coded. Yeah. So
okay. Good. All right. So is there anything else you feel like that we need to add there to be able
I think this emotional component, I'm still kind of, and I think the emotional component is mainly due to related to the people I work with, right? Because I'm relatively resilient, even though if it's raining outside, everybody gets wet, but some people don't mind, right? So I'm more like, I'm relatively resilient to that, but other people are not. So I want to also kind of brace myself to kind of recognize better when other people feel that, and then what to do about it.
So when you
how
mentioned,
can you help me on that?
Sorry, go ahead.
How can you help me on that?
Okay, so you're talking about now it's with others. The emotional component is more with others. So how do you be more sensitive to others? Because you feel like you're generally more resilient also when others maybe are not. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own level of resilience, and especially in the age of diversity, we need to respect that. But I think it's my responsibility to kind of sense how people feel about these things, right, and kind of help them with that. And I definitely don't want to be the cause of that, because that would be very unhelpful at every level. So
Will, let me throw back the question to you. So how do you start sensing people's emotions more? So right now you're saying that you're not able to, but do different. So what can you do differently to be able to sense people's emotions more?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that has been about I think one of the things that as we now talk about it could be as simple as, just kind of walk around in the office and kind of see how people are doing, right? Yeah. And maybe it's just as simple as asking people, so how are you doing? How do you feel, right? And the way people answer it, it's obvious that it is what it is, right? So I think by just opening up that dialogue to, sense their level of, burnout or pressure or whatever it is. Yeah.
So I'm hearing, go ahead. Sorry.
So maybe also ask them, hey, if we plan things, how comfortable are you on a scale of 1 to 5 to be able to do this, right? And kind of be back with that question a number of times throughout the project and say, hey, I know you're working on this, so I know you wanted to finish this by Friday as we discussed, but is that, are you comfortable with that, or do you need any help, right? So maybe just kind of checking in with people on how they're doing.
I love that, Will, because what you're doing is you're trying to see how they're doing, what level they are in, and what level of engagement they are at the time that you're talking to them. That's wonderful. Yeah, good. So does that answer your question on being able to read other people's emotions?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. All right. So at this point, Will, what are you realizing about yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, part of it I realize about myself is that I just need to allot time for this, right? To not let burnout happen, but to be more kind of proactive in sensing around this. And this is as simple as, just score yourself on your burnout, right? So it's maybe as simple as that, right? So once a day or a couple of times a week to say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you are, Will? And are we moving in the right direction or in the wrong direction based on last time we thought about this? Yeah, maybe it's as simple as that. Yeah.
Wonderful. So giving yourself a scale and kind of seeing where you are with it.
Yeah. It's a little bit like losing weight, building muscle, right? Am I in the right direction or in the wrong direction? Yeah.
And I'm also curious about, as you try to implement this plan, I wanted to hear about what's going to get you motivated to do this.
Well, so I'm very achievement orientated. So the motivation is very simple in making sure that we deliver on the goals we set. So the motivation is not so much of an issue. Yeah, it's more like digesting all the stuff on the way to that achievement.
Okay, good.
Right, it's the motivation to win the race is not the problem, but it's it's the the burnout in the race, right? So that's
the burnout in the race. Yeah. So you're saying that the motivation to win the race is a strong enough driver to get you there?
Yeah. I'm very achievement orientated. I'm not really in terms of winning versus losing. I'm more like, hey, this is just a great thing to do. Let's just do it, right? Just like climbing the mountain type of thing. Yeah?
Okay, good. Is there anything you think that's going to be in the way, knowing yourself, as you try to do this plan?
Yeah, I think it's busyness, right? So it's not taking that time to stop. Yeah, not taking that time to reflect. Yeah.
And how do you combat that busyness?
Yeah, so that is really about being religious about the scheduling, and I can put a timer on my Apple Watch, right, to kind of take that break. Yeah.
Good. That sounds good. So you're becoming more deliberate. I mean, you want it, you come up with action steps, and now you're being more deliberate on what you need to do. Good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And when will you start doing this?
As of 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Aha, good. Congratulations on starting that journey of just being less burnout and just feeling more joy and more energized, like you said, and less on empty and more on full tank. Yeah, good. Is there anything else you feel like we need to cover in the action steps?
No, I think this is good enough to get going on this. And if I need more help or I get stuck, then maybe we can take that up in one of our next discussions.
Good. Okay. Well, one last question is, how do you hold yourself accountable?
Yeah. So again, in my action list, it's basically ticking the box that I did it. Yeah. and that kind of counts then how it's done. So I think it's software can take care of the accountability piece. Yeah.
Good. Okay, good, great. So looking forward to hearing how this goes for you, and looking forward also to our next session, Will.
Thank you so much, Anna. It was a great help today.
All right, good.